As we delve into this topic, you'll discover how our minds work to protect us from stress, anxiety, and other forms of emotional discomfort. So, what are defense mechanisms? Simply put, they're unconscious strategies that our minds use to cope with difficult situations, emotions, or thoughts. These mechanisms help us maintain a sense of balance and well-being by distorting, denying, or manipulating reality in some way. Think of them like a psychological shield that guards our ego from the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. The concept of defense mechanisms has been around for over a century, dating back to the work of Sigmund Freud, who first introduced the idea in his psychoanalytic theory. Since then, numerous psychologists and researchers have contributed to our understanding of this concept, including Anna Freud, who identified several types of defense mechanisms such as repression, denial, and projection. One of the key psychological theories that explains defense mechanisms is the psychodynamic perspective, which suggests that our unconscious mind plays a significant role in shaping our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. According to this theory, defense mechanisms are used to defend against anxiety-provoking stimuli, such as traumatic events or unresolved conflicts. Another important theory is the cognitive behavioral perspective, which views defense mechanisms as maladaptive coping strategies that can perpetuate negative thought patterns and behaviors. Research has shown that defense mechanisms can be both adaptive and maladaptive. For example, humor can be a healthy way to cope with stress, while denial or projection can be more detrimental to our mental health. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that individuals who used more adaptive defense mechanisms, such as sublimation or humor, tended to have better emotional regulation and well-being. Let's consider an example of defense mechanisms in action. Imagine that Sarah, a marketing executive, has just been passed over for a promotion. Instead of acknowledging her disappointment and frustration, Sarah tells herself that she didn't really want the promotion anyway, and that her current role is more fulfilling. In this case, Sarah is using the defense mechanism of rationalization to avoid feelings of inadequacy and rejection. However, by doing so, she may miss out on the opportunity to learn from her experience and develop new skills. In therapy, understanding defense mechanisms is crucial for helping clients address underlying issues and develop more constructive ways of dealing with stress and anxiety. Cognitive behavioral therapy, for instance, can help individuals identify and challenge their negative thought patterns and behaviors, which are often rooted in defense mechanisms. By becoming more aware of our own defense mechanisms and how they impact our lives, we can work towards developing greater self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and more effective coping strategies. Another important concept related to defense mechanisms is the idea of emotional regulation. Emotional regulation refers to our ability to manage and modulate our emotional responses to different situations. When we use defense mechanisms, we're often trying to regulate our emotions in some way, whether it's by denying or distorting reality. However, this can sometimes backfire and lead to more emotional dysregulation in the long run. Recent research has also highlighted the importance of mindfulness and self-compassion in overcoming defense mechanisms. By cultivating a greater awareness of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, we can develop a more nuanced understanding of our defense mechanisms and learn to use them in a more adaptive way. Self-compassion, in particular, can help us develop a more accepting and kind attitude towards ourselves, which can reduce our need to rely on defense mechanisms. By acknowledging and understanding our own defense mechanisms, we can take the first step towards developing greater self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and more effective coping strategies. It's also important to recognize that defense mechanisms exist on a spectrum, ranging from more adaptive to less adaptive. For example, humor can be a healthy way to cope with stress, while denial or projection can be more maladaptive. By becoming more aware of our own defense mechanisms and how they impact our lives, we can work towards developing more constructive ways of dealing with challenges and improving our overall well-being. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.